Hey, this is John. I just want to welcome everybody to our webinar today. We're going to start promptly at 2:02. We've got some folks still logging in, so we're going to give them another 60 to 90 seconds to get on board, and then we'll start at 2:02 and look forward to talking with you guys in just a few minutes. Yeah, I believe we have a couple more folks joining. We're going to start right here in a second. James, I want to make sure you can hear me, sir.
Coming in loud and clear.
Great. All right, so we'll go ahead and get going. I think the record button is moving along. Listen, just good afternoon, everyone. And I just wanted to welcome you to our Covestic webinar, Why Customer Experience Leaders Are Choosing ServiceNow for Their Customer Support. As many of you know, the landscape of customer service and support is very dynamic. Today, customers' expectations are at an all-time high concerning their experiences. Today, you're going to hear from one of the leading experts in how ServiceNow is changing these dynamics and helping customers just like you satisfy their customer needs and doing it with delight. So I just wanted to say good morning, good afternoon. I'm John Winters. I'm a business development manager for Covestic. I come from a 15-plus year background in traditional customer service technologies, working with large global contact center platforms, focused on customer experience. Today, this webinar will focus on three key areas. One, the changing landscape of the traditional customer service model. Two, technical innovation to increase customer loyalty. And lastly, breaking down customer service silos with the use of automation within the customer experience process. So feel free to ask questions via the chat feature. We'll have time towards the end to answer as many of those as time permits. If we don't get to all of them, we'll get to them in a follow-up email or post. And then lastly, this is being recorded, and you'll be provided with a link for the webinar playback after the session. But without any further ado, I just want to introduce a great friend of mine and wonderful teammate, James Devine. He's a senior solutions architect with Covestic. James is an expert in customer service management. CSM will actually be teaching the CSM fundamentals class at the pre-conference training right before ServiceNow's Knowledge 19 event in Las Vegas in early May. So we're glad to have him. James, can you say hello to everybody? And when you do, give the folks a quick preview of what they're going to see today that may be different than what they've seen in the past with customer service and customer experience.
Sure. Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. James Devine. Before I get to my intro, I'm just going to give a quick preview of what I have planned. We're going to talk about what sets customer service management, also known as CSM, apart from other support models. We're going to look at a couple of our case studies, and then towards the end, we'll talk about how to start your journey. That's what we have on tap for today. A little bit about me, as John Winter said, I'm James Devine, a senior solutions architect and the CSM team lead at Covestic. I have been implementing ServiceNow in partner capacity for 10 years, and I've been with Covestic for about 5.5. For the past 4 years, I've been almost entirely dedicated to the customer service management space. I've been very fortunate to get a lot of hands-on experience with some of the earliest projects of ServiceNow's customer service management. Learned an awful lot along the way. It's really been a fun ride, and I continue to see really new and exciting use cases for the suite as well as the processes. As John also mentioned, I'll be teaching my 7th course in the pre-conference training at the Knowledge Conference next year. If you're not familiar, I'm sorry, not next month, in about a week and a half actually. If you're not familiar with the Knowledge Conference that ServiceNow puts on, it is a fantastic session put on. It's about 4 days of nonstop material. Most of it is customer driven. I think 80% of these sessions are actually delivered by customers. So you actually get to hear a lot of real world stories of use cases for ServiceNow in the various process areas. And there's always a pretty heavy emphasis on CSM. And if you are registered for the CSM Fundamentals course as part of pre-conference training, I believe there are already 60 some people in there. There's a few seats left, but I will be teaching that course again this year. Back to you, John.
Great, James. Thank you. Hey, I know there's a number of existing Covestic customers with us today, but for those of you who are new to Covestic, I'm going to take 3 to 4 minutes and just share a little bit about us. We at Covestic are an 18-year service management consulting organization, and we're very proud of our 8-year partnership with ServiceNow. We're a gold level partner for ServiceNow, and we're certified gold in implementation services, licensing sales, and we're also a certified training partner. ServiceNow is our only service management solution partnership, and we are headquartered in Kirkland, Washington, and work across the United States in many commercial and enterprise organizations across many different business sectors. Our vision is to enable our clients to harness the power of their technology investment, focus on the support of our clients that they need to be more efficient, more responsive, and more effective. And then lastly, with the technology and expertise that we can bring, we make it possible for them to successfully achieve their positive business outcomes. We have a 3-prong practice area in our go-to-market. One is our ServiceNow Consulting, which James and I are heavily vetted in. Our consulting extends from roadmap planning to platform enablement, implementation, and managed services. We have experience across the ServiceNow platform, including IT service management, IT operations management, customer service, security operations, governance, risk, and compliance. Our second practice is our IT operations managed services, and it's focused around tackling security and technology operations, reducing costs, and helping clients scale rapidly to meet their objectives. And then our third practice is our staffing and project delivery. These services help customers with critical projects and help to augment their team and staffing to solve their capacity challenges and deliver in a timely manner. As I mentioned before, we were founded 18 years ago in 2001, headquartered in Kirkland, Washington. We have over 300 experienced consultants, averaging 15 years of experience and consulting expertise. We invest continually in training and education for our team. And all of our resources are domestic and in the United States. You can be assured that we have the professional certifications, expert knowledge, and industry experience needed to support your technology systems and goals. We have done over 180 ServiceNow projects, and we have an average customer satisfaction score of 9.8, which we're very proud of. We like to take a long view with our customer engagement needs, and a true partnership is really our ultimate goal. And for that reason, in helping customers achieve success, we've had over a 90% return rate for customers that come back for repeat engagements. And again, something that we're real proud of. Lastly, just a quick snapshot of our clients. We're doing large-scale engagements across the country where we're impacting the customer and their customer's experience. In today's webinar, we'll have a few examples of our experience with some of ServiceNow's largest customer service management clients, like EPICOR, Starbucks, Epsilon. James, can you tell us a little bit about some of the use cases that you've seen where customer service management, or CSM, has been a solution?
Sure. We've actually been seeing it used in a pretty wide variety of applications. At a very high level, anytime that you need to use ServiceNow for external usage, meaning non-employees of your company, then CSM is probably the way to go. But beyond that, it's a pretty big field that you can play in. There's the B2B models and the B2C. We've seen it being used in a lot of support models like that. Traditional customer support is fine, where we're just doing customer issues and requests and handling that. ServiceNow has always been good at that, and they bring the ITIL service management practices into play for it. but we're also seeing a lot of different use cases like franchise organizations doing store support. We're seeing a lot of growth in the medical patient care field. We're seeing a lot of areas where ServiceNow's unique things like the request model with workflow is really lending itself to some really impressive customer fulfillment needs. So it's actually a pretty broad area that we're seeing it being used in.
Great.
All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on talking about our three main topics of conversation today. So we're looking at the current state of customer experience. And yes, we do use the term customer experience because customer service is inextricably tied to one of the problems with the current model, which is dealing with break fix. So we like to look at the entire customer experience. We're also going to talk about ways that we can improve on this experience and then what the journey looks like to get there. So traditional CRM customer service is really centered around break fix, and we're going to talk in the next slide about what that life cycle looks like. But frequently we see that being a model that has a pretty low ceiling for improvement. There's only so much you can do to do break fix better. When you really start looking beyond that and you look across the different silos that organizations have, there's opportunity for significant decreases in call volume based off of doing things like root cause analysis and process improvement that can dramatically bring down support costs and at the same time bring up your customer satisfaction. So there's a lot of win-wins that come along with that type of model. All right, more definition of terms because we like to throw around a lot of buzzwords here, but when we say customer service management, we're talking about the entire process beyond just the support model that leads to the customer service experience, the customer experience. So CX really describes the entirety of how a customer works with you and perceives working with you from their standpoint. So that's a relationship that starts long before an issue happens and doesn't end when an agent hangs up and closes a ticket. Customer service management is how we actually manage that life cycle of the consumer experience. All right, so how does CSM differ from traditional solutions? Well, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of continual service improvement, which is one of the core features of ITIL, and there's an entire very thick textbook written on the subject. I would recommend it if this is something that you're considering, but I do want to speak to the fact that just doing break fix isn't really going to make a fundamental improvement to your customer experience. That's the model that most people are using today. It's hyper-focused on metrics like first call resolution, time to answer, post-support CSATs. All of these are great, but they're really about monitoring the symptoms, not the problem. So as you see on the right there in the illustration, that fourth step, having that root cause analysis, that's part of the prevent and improve process, that really makes a significant difference in preventing future issues from happening at all. You get to hear the word effortless thrown out around customer service and customer experience discussions quite a bit. And I think a lot of times people will confuse the term effortless with low effort. Making it easier to engage with your support department is great. It's something that should be done, but that's not effortless, that's low effort. The true effortless is the call that didn't happen in the first place. That call to my cable provider that didn't happen because it didn't go out. That's the big win. And we can gain a lot of insight from this approach when we start doing actual root cause analysis, which is known commonly in the ITIL world as problem management, to find out why our customer is calling and what can we do to prevent that from happening in the future. The biggest problem that this usually has in a lot of organizations is that the root cause is outside of customer support. It's something in operations, it's something in services, it's something in accounting that customer support didn't really have any visibility or control over that caused that customer to call. And that's where breaking down those barriers between support and the rest of the organization is really the best way to lead to significant improvements into a customer service experience improvement. So instead of watching stats on how much each customer engagement costs you, Imagine watching engagement numbers drop while at the same time that customer satisfaction scores go up, overhead costs go down, revenues go up, everybody wins. And this is seemingly a no-brainer. But then the question is, why isn't everybody doing this? Well, the simple answer is that it takes a lot of coordination, and it takes communication within an organization. It is a true organizational change, and it can't exist just inside the customer support organization. All right, so here's some numbers. 5% increase in customer loyalty can increase profits by 95%. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but honestly, I hate statistics like these because it's self-evident. It just makes sense that happier customers translates to happier CFOs. So let's talk about how we can actually put the right investment into a service management centric customer support transformation can actually get us to numbers like these. All right, so here's some more statistics for you. People who agree with each of the following statements: that improved customer experience can result in cost savings. Well, of course it can. Everybody knows that unhappy customers are expensive customers. We have plenty of statistics that show that anytime they need to engage with an operator, it's going to cost us somewhere between $5 and $30. Well, if we can improve that to where either the customer can self-satisfy with knowledge or a virtual agent or some other tool, then that's certainly going to bring down those support costs. And that's one side of the coin. And I'm all for bringing down support costs. But for me, what really excites me about working with CSM is that we get not just the reduced cost, not just the overhead side, but also the additional revenue side. And this is something that we've actually seen in several instances where we have taken this service management approach to customer support. Now, oftentimes webinars are filled with exaggerated statistics, but we're going to talk about how we've been part of making these types of numbers a reality for a number of our customers.
Hey, James.
Yes, sir.
ServiceNow CEO John Donahoe talks about the consumerization of the customer experience. How does the use of a proactive strategy with the use of CSM help clients affect their traditional call metrics?
Right. I think we get into, we're in a fairly new era with the marketplace. There's not a lot of room to compete on cost on these days for most goods and services because there are so many options for competitors that people have. Quality is usually pretty universal unless you happen to have a niche product or service. So really the area that organizations can really set themselves apart is how well they do customer experience. So when they talk about consumerizing the customer experience, it really is the last great frontier that there is for companies to make great strides. And part of that is not just doing break fix, and that's something that I harp on a lot, but because just doing the same thing where you're waiting with a warehouse full of customer service agents for the next customer to call with an issue isn't really going to improve anything, no matter what quality you provide that customer with. Even if you have the best customer support system in the world, just doing that isn't going to give you significant increases.
Great, thanks, man.
All right, so as a consultant, oftentimes I talk to customers who are thinking that throwing a technology solution is going to be everything they need. The question is, can a software tool be the key to happier customers? Well, obviously, the answer is no, but a software tool that enables a better process of customer engagement can be, and we've seen it work several times. So CSM is a process and a discipline, much the same vein as ITIL. In fact, it actually borrows a lot of the core service management principles from ITIL that we've seen proven over decades. The ITIL discipline started in the late 70s and has been evolving as a customer-centric approach to IT for many years. And they've done a really good job of learning how to treat all users like customers and then improve their lives based off of that and making it customer-centric. So that's the same approach that we use with a customer service management approach. All right, improved customer experience is not attainable through technology alone. I recently, this is a personal story of mine, recently as last week, going through a customer service experience with a large retailer where they messed something up. And their system put the onus of fixing the situation on me. When I called, it was obvious that they had invested very heavily in their automated systems. They had a state-of-the-art IVR that had natural language recognition, even to the point of having faux typing sounds as if the virtual agent that I was talking to was banging away at a keyboard to try to solve my issue. And this is the important part here, all of that investment did not either improve my experience or speed up my resolution. It didn't prevent me from having to speak directly to an agent. It simply made me jump through all of their hoops and raise my frustration level before I ever got to an agent so that my issue could be addressed. Again, an issue they caused to begin with. So that, my friends, is a failed investment. And this is a sentiment that I shared quite blatantly with them in the survey that I received immediately after the agent hung up. And it actually took several more calls after that before I was actually able to resolve the issue that was created on their end. So you can't just throw technology at a problem. The technology has to be there to support a customer-centric process. And that starts long before the customer encounters an issue and does not end when the agent closes out a ticket. We're going to talk a little bit about a case study, and actually I believe we have one of the project sponsors from EPICOR on the call today, so nice shout out to you, Joe, if you're listening. EPICOR is a billion-dollar company that makes a wide variety of different software packages, mid-tier ERP systems, niche products, hardware, point-of-sale support, that sort of thing. We engaged with them about 4 years ago, and this is at the earliest dawn of CSM as a part of ServiceNow. In fact, when we started the development effort, the actual package had not yet been released. It was still in beta. At that time, EPICOR had more than 15 CRM-based support systems, and these were supporting 20,000 customers worldwide. This happened as a result of many years of growth through acquisition. So this led to very poor and inconsistent customer service experience, long resolution times, high costs. And today, just a few short years later, EPICOR provides a new single global customer support system powering the delivery of consistent service experience to all of the customers and its partners. And with the ServiceNow customer service management, EPICOR has realized a 10 percentage point increase in net promoter scores in the first 10 months that the EPICOR product was available, which is the ServiceNow CSM, improved agent satisfaction and productivity, and most importantly, and this is easily demonstrable, and there's actually a Forrester study about this, that there was $11.4 million economic impact from investing in this solution. Not to mention a couple of industry awards for customer service to boot. So very happy results with what we've done with EPICOR. That was certainly not an easy process to go through. And I go back to what I said at the beginning of the webinar, is that this is much an organizational change as it has anything to do with a technology change.
Hey, James, just want to encourage anybody that had any questions to drop those in the chat. And we'll take those at the end of the webinar, but I just want to put another pitch in for anybody that wants to raise a question to James and take advantage of his wide breadth of experience. Please drop those in the chat. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like interaction. So hopefully there will be some questions at the end, and we'll take as much time as we need to address those. All right, so when looking at customer experience transformations, there's really two options. There's the break-fix model that is supported by most of the CRM tools in the market, and the service management inspired model that we're talking about here today. Making that choice really depends on several factors and usually involves more than just the support organization. Oftentimes we see product development, operations, and other parts of the business have a hand in the decision making, as the net result will ultimately impact and improve the way they all operate as well. So customer service management is a different approach to customer service, not break-fix centric. It is focused on the whole customer experience and how they perceive working with you from their client customer perspective, not just how we handle things when things go bad. The product service improvement is a byproduct of true CSM. Support costs drop, NPS scores jump, everybody wins. So, why isn't everybody doing this? Well, as I said earlier, it does require a broader approach than traditional customer support models or customer support organizations are used to dealing with. A lot of times, if I'm talking to software manufacturers, software developers, the support organization has little to no contact with the actual developers, even though one bug in a software release can lead to a surge of customer support. So there's true cause and effect. But when there's no connectivity in between those two, there's no way to recognize that, hey, this release caused this number of issues to be raised or had this type of impact on our customers. There's a lot of visibility that people don't have in most organizations, and oftentimes that's because the tools don't support that.
Hey, James, I had a quick question here.
Sure.
Those EPICOR statistics are very impressive, right? $11 million impact, 10-point net promoter score. I mean, clearly those are demonstratable and fully quantifiable. But with the global reach that ServiceNow has had, specifically in many organizations around IT management, HR, security operations, how can somebody that's considering the customer service management elements of ServiceNow take advantage of their investment in ServiceNow as a platform that may already be in place, just not in customer service?
Sure, we've actually seen this a number of times from both angles, where a customer who already has ServiceNow as their IT service management system, and or maybe even their HR, facilities management, or whatever other area in ServiceNow that they might have, if they already have that, they can actually leverage quite a bit of that functionality to help drive their customer support. In fact, I'm actually working with an organization right now where they chose ServiceNow for CSM, but they recognize that because they are a high-tech B2B company, most of their infrastructure is customer facing and customer impacting. So we actually started that with the ITSM implementation first, so we could have all of that back-end infrastructure, which is directly impacting their customers, in place to help support their customer service management implementation. So that's one way that we've seen it done. We've also seen where people have started with customer service management, and then they recognize that, this is good, this is helping, but if we actually had that visibility between this and other process areas, it would be even better. And that kind of leads into what I wanted to talk about next is, the technology is a big factor, but it's not the only factor. ServiceNow is a platform that has a lot of functionality. This graphic that you're looking at right now, ServiceNow refers to this as their football, and it shows a lot of different functionality and capabilities. Since its inception, it's really been focused, ServiceNow has been focused on service management principles. So better together means that having customer support in the same platform as IT, HR, security, operations means you get that visibility that most organizations and tools doesn't support. So how can you accurately measure how much a product or service defect costs you in support terms? Again, we're talking about looking at root cause for things that will actually downstream become customer issues. How can we leverage what we're learning from the feedback we get from our customers in order to drive better IT service management? Maybe I go back to a story that I had when checking into a hotel a couple of years ago, late on a Sunday night, and their entire reservation system nationwide was down. And that was causing all sorts of frustration all up and down the system. It meant that they were taking photocopies of credit cards and driver's licenses to check people in. And all of this was caused by a poorly planned change to their infrastructure. So there was a case where IT directly had a massive impact on customer functionality. So when you have all of these different platforms, all of the processes sharing the same platform, you actually have the ability to see across the organization to see what those relationships are. And that's something that ServiceNow does better than any tool on the market that I'm aware of. There actually is so many synergies to be gained by having all of this on one platform.
Great, James. Thank you.
All right, now I would be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the technology here. ServiceNow has all of the same features that most of the traditional CRM customer support tools has, and it also has quite a few more that wouldn't be available to them. So things like your customer 360 view, and this is something that I get asked about frequently, is how can I see everything that's going on with a particular customer, not just the support log of that or just their warranty claims or that sort of thing. And ServiceNow's cross-platform capabilities actually gives us the ability to create really powerful dashboards so that anybody from an account manager to a support team member to the CEO can look to see at an individual customer level what is their entire health of the customer relationship, i.e. that customer experience. And that's something that we get as a result of having all of these things on the same platform. We talk about things like the AI and virtual agent. The functionality is getting more and more complex and more mature as we get deeper into this era of artificial intelligence. The virtual agent is actually doing a wonderful job of easing the customer's experience and doing call deflection. So there's a lot of really cool capabilities there. KCS knowledge, the knowledge for customer support, is something that people have really just started to warm up to over the last couple of years. And knowledge management is far more than just having 10,000 FAQs in a folder or just a bunch of documents. Having really good knowledge is worth the investment because it does enable your customers to self-satisfy and do that call deflection. And a trained and educated customer is definitely a better customer. So it's worth putting that effort into true KCS knowledge. And then performance analytics, that's the business intelligence portion of ServiceNow, where you can actually do some amazing reporting and get some visibility. And going back to that previous slide where we had everything on the same platform, we can actually do some really powerful deep dives into what is causing us to have higher support costs, and how can we improve that. So if we can do things upstream that prevent users from having issues, then number one, we don't expend those dollars for customer support. We also haven't disrupted our customer, which makes for much happier customers. Definitely better in the long run. All right, so why does this work? I think I've stated this a few times already, but having the better actionable metrics is pretty important, and it gives you things that you can't get elsewhere. That root cause analysis, that fourth step, just because you have fixed somebody's issue doesn't mean the support effort should stop there. Having a separate team whose job it is to look at why people are calling, why they're having issues, and what we can do to improve that going forward, that is the biggest stride that you can make with CSM. And I think that's an area that people need to really understand when they're looking at a new support model for their organization. All right, so let's just revisit the EPICOR case study real quick. In the 3 years that it has been live, let's talk about what EPICOR has seen since they've taken the customer service management evolution on full force. They have 104% return on investment, meaning every penny that they put into implementing the new platform has paid off in directly attributable costs. They have a 3% incremental revenue growth that can be directly attributed to the improvement in customer support, and threefold improvement to their reporting and tracking. And when I talk to the project sponsors there, as much as they love all of the accolades and all of the functionality that they've gotten, the thing that impresses them the most is the ability to get those statistics, the performance analytics and reporting capabilities that they never had before.
Hey, James, I know many folks are used to IT projects kind of having a long runway and taking a while, right, to get from point A to point B to full impact. Now, EPICOR was sizable, right? I think the published statistics say that there were 50 different customer portals and 15 different CRMs that were all consolidated down to ServiceNow. But give the folks an idea of how long it took, right, from a timeline standpoint to bring impact in our project timeline and delivery.
Sure, I get to throw the famous consulting question answer out there. It depends. It really depends on the size and scope. We've seen CSM projects take as little as 3 months and as long as a year and a half to 2 years. It really depends on where we're coming from as far as a tooling and a process standpoint and what we're going into. If you are starting from a greenfield where there's not much there, or you're using a rudimentary support ticketing system and we're coming into a full force, it's probably easier than if we are coming from a traditional break fix model and we are trying to retrain everybody into a customer support centric, a customer service centric mentality. That said, we did the EPICOR implementation over a longer period because we wanted to minimize the impact to the number of agents. So there were actually 7 separate go lives that made up that implementation, and that was so that we could methodically onboard both agents and products and reduce the impact to customers rather than trying to do it full bore right out the gate. All right,
Great.
well, as we begin to wrap up today's session, I do want to tell you a little bit more about that journey. We did move away from break fix model to customer support. We actually moved away from a lot of different models at EPICOR. We worked very closely with them. It really was a true partnership, and we recognized that it would not have been successful had they not put all the blood, sweat, and tears in that we did as well. And it wasn't always easy, but it was something that, as you can see from all these statistics, has really paid off in the interim. So we wanted to work with them from the very beginning on the decision making. We helped guide them in their decision on going with ServiceNow versus some of the other competitive tools that they were looking at with a more CRM-based approach. Really, the results speak for themselves. I would love to be here a year from now doing a webinar talking about another success story. We've actually done several since then. We have some really big wins. We've had some people who have just gone with a tool replacement. But we are looking for our next partner here, the next organization that wants to make that journey and is willing to invest in organizational change and the tooling to support a more customer service, customer centric approach rather than just doing the break fix. All right, I want to recap this because I can't stress enough that this is the big differentiator. And I know it seems small and it seems a little process wonky, but having this fourth section here where you can engage with your customer, diagnose their issue, fix it, get them back on their way and satisfy their current need is great. That process improvement, the improve and prevent, is an area that ServiceNow stands alone with as far as the technical capabilities and the process capabilities to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're working in different systems. You have to do a lot of copying to Excel to find out what cause and effect was. And getting the capabilities in here is actually one of the biggest wins that I see organizations get when they invest in CSM.
Hey James, as we go to Q&A, and again, we've got some questions coming in. You guys feel free to kind of get your questions in, and we'll do our best to get to those. But James, if there were 3 things that you wanted these folks to remember weeks from now, right, about how their customer service, their customer experience can be different using ServiceNow, customer service management, or CSM, what would those things be you'd want to remember?
Well, the first one is what I call, break fix model is a fool's errand. You can only improve so much. There's a very low ceiling on how much you can do that. And, I go back to that anecdote that I gave about my customer experience. They were trying to do break fix as cheaply as possible by using technology to do everything they could to deflect me, but that didn't actually take care of my issue. So while there's probably some evidence that it reduced their hard cost, it certainly didn't improve customer experience. So getting away from that break fix model is definitely the biggest takeaway I want everybody to have. Implementing CSM leads to higher CSATs and higher revenues. I mean, I can't find anybody I've ever talked to that doesn't want both of those. And Covestic as an organization has a proven track record. We've done this. We've made it work. We've guided organizations along this journey, and we are definitely an organization that wants to work and partner with organizations out there to make more success stories.
James, there's a lot of buzz out there, and you touched on it earlier, but I want to come back to it right around effortless, right? And the customer support, the customer experience. How does that lend itself to the fabled effortless experience?
Well, yeah, I always go back to the definition of effortless means you had to exert zero effort, not low effort. And I think about these things while I'm out running. And if you replace the word effort with impact, there's no impact and low impact. So the effortless experience is the one where I wasn't that no interruption was made to my day. I did not have to call for support. That's effortless. That's true effortless. Anything beyond that, where I still encounter disruptions, which are going to happen, people call that effortless if I can do that through chat or text or IVR. That's great that I have low effort ways to do that. But that's not true effortless. And I think if you actually read the book, The Effortless Experience, which I recommend to everyone, when they talk about the customer studies that they've done, it's the effortless experience, not the low effort, but the effortless experience where products have been improved, services are improved as a result of customer service. That's where organizations see major strides. So, when people talk about effortless, I want them to think no effort, not low effort.
Great, thanks, James. So I do have a couple questions here, and just to tag on, I heard a very wise man say one time, you've got relational impact to customers, you've got transactional impact to customers. Net promoter tends to be more of a relational survey. Effort tends to be more of a transactional. And there's really room. Some organizations feel like they have to do a fork in the road, but this gentleman really said there's opportunity for both, right? When you're dealing with your customers and trying to secure that base and make sure they're happy so they stay on for a long, long time. Total life cycle revenue, if you will. James, I got a couple questions here from the panel. How have you seen ServiceNow work in a business to consumer or B2C model?
Well, that's a good question because we're actually seeing it get a lot of traction in B2C. Obviously, your high-tech B2B, where you have data centers and infrastructure that are directly impacting customers' capabilities, that's an easy story to tell. The B2C, still, there's some amazing things that you can do with ServiceNow in that standpoint. We're talking to a couple of pretty significant game manufacturers out there right now on utilizing ServiceNow for their very high volume, very complex, and very low impact centric customer support models. So I definitely see it gathering more traction there. And I think oftentimes it really depends on the business model. So B2B is more standardized than what B2C is. B2C, your customers might be very transactional. Maybe they're very volatile. If you're a pizza franchise and your B2C model involves handling cases where somebody left off the mushrooms, that's a significantly different experience than somebody who just purchased a refrigerator and needs to register their serial number for warranty support. So there's definitely a lot of really interesting use cases that we're seeing, and ServiceNow is actually proven to be much more broadly capable of doing this than some of the other CRM tools out there.
Great. It's funny you mentioned CRM. Got a question right here that I think you'll be able to fold right into. I guess the question I'll kind of rephrase a little bit. Is ServiceNow Customer Service Management or CSM a replacement for CRM or even like a Salesforce?
No, it is not, and that is an important distinction. So Salesforce and true sales automation tools usually incorporate things like campaign management and opportunity and lead tracking. ServiceNow does not do that. ServiceNow only edges into the space where it's the customer support. So Salesforce does have customer support, as about 25% of its functionality, but the rest of that functionality ServiceNow does not deal with right now, and I don't think has any plans on getting into. So there's still a need for your traditional Salesforce automation and lead and opportunity management and marketing campaigns in other tools.
Okay, great. If anybody else has any questions, please drop them in on the chat as we kind of wrap up. I got one more question, James. In your experience, I know you touched on it, whether it's a technical hurdle or an organizational hurdle, what's the biggest hurdle that you've seen customers kind of be challenged with when you're deploying a CSM and a CSM strategy?
Honestly, it is the resistance to change. I have worked with a few organizations where management and leadership wanted them to get away from break fix, but for whatever reason, the actual operational teams wanted to stick with a traditional break fix model, which meant they wanted to be very high touch. They didn't want to use things like the automation. So that actually turned into be a significant barrier to the success that they were able to get from that. So, I think making sure that everybody involved from leadership on down understands and supports the change that's actually happening in day-to-day operations and the way that people work with customers. I think that's probably the biggest thing, much more than the technology. The second, I would say, is data. Data is crucial to this because if you don't have good data or data that can be made good, like good customer masters and product to asset relationships and that sort of thing, it becomes very difficult to get a lot of the value out of the process.
Great. Thanks, James. All right. So hope you guys have seen a lot of value. I always learn something whenever I get a chance to get around James, and he's a tremendous resource for us and for you. So feel free to tap into that. But I also wanted to point you to our resource library. James, you can actually go back. I apologize. I jumped ahead there. Our resource library, which is available at our website, Covestic.com. You can see the URL there. There's a ton of information out there. Here's just 3 examples. One, specifically a format just like we had today on what to expect when you're upgrading. Many customers, as you know, have to stay within 2 revs of current from a release and contractual standpoint with ServiceNow. So upgrading is something that's on everybody's roadmap, and there's a great set of best practices there to learn from. CMDB is a piece of the ITIL and ServiceNow framework that we take very seriously. We find a lot of customers struggle with the ideas of discovery tools, service mapping. So there's some great information there, and we'd love to talk to you about trying to get your CMDB done right, since it's foundational to everything else that ServiceNow's football brings to bear. And then the ebook is something that we've got. It was the #1 topic requested by ServiceNow user group steering committees, peers of yours, users that basically evaluated presentations, said, hey, will you come talk to our group about this? Nationwide, the #1 topic was, hey, I'm implemented. How do I go forward? How do I build a team? How do I build a roadmap, a budget, and staffing? These things are all cyclical, and I seem to be kind of stuck in the weeds on this. So great ebook there. Love to talk to you more about road mapping and how those match up to your staffing and budgeting needs. So great stuff on the library. Please check it out. Okay. Next slide, sir. Thank you. And lastly, if you enjoyed time with James, which I think we all do, there's an opportunity to get a little bit of his time while we're at Knowledge 2019. There'll be a way to potentially follow up and schedule some time. We're going to be in booth 427 if you want to do a drop-in. The best way to do it is email us at servicenow@covestic.com. That's servicenow@covestic.com. And we can get back with you on availability and windows. We'd love to see you at Knowledge. It's a tremendous platform for end users just like yourself to talk about the impact they're bringing not only to their customers, but to their internal owners, process owners, and shareholders as well. But again, feel free to come by and see us and register for some time with James and come by and shake a hand. So we do appreciate your time today. We appreciate you joining. Again, if there's anything else that we can help you guys with around customer service management or really anything that's ITSM or ITOM or CMDB or governance related, please email us at servicenow@covestic.com. And with that said, I want to thank James and Caitlin for her support, and thank you guys. for the opportunity. I feel like you probably got a lot of value out of this today. And again, you'll be getting an email with a link for the replay, so please share it with your team. And with that, we'll say have a great afternoon, and thanks again for Covestic for joining.